Alright, so this is going to be part 3 to what if Deku had Naruto's powers. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
Bow in the presence of greatness. Cause right now that has forsaken us. You should be honored by my lateness. That I would even show up to this fake shit. So go ahead, go nuts, go.
Alright, so in the last part we just got done with the heroes versus villains attack. And I also asked you guys whether or not Monoma should be in Class 1A because of the invisible girl just not being or being the one that got kicked out. And I made a poll on my community tab because for some reason YouTube just removed the ability to make polls on videos. I'm not sure why. I mean, like, that was a really useful feature, but now I have to, every time I make a poll, I have to do it on my community tab. So if I ever say, do you want this or want that in a video, you should probably check the community poll or the community tab in my channel. So anyways, so yeah, like I said before, we just got done with the heroes vs villains attack, and we're gonna start off a little bit before school starts, but still at UA, if that makes sense. So it would be 2 students from Class 1B, that being Kendo and Monoma. And both of them are in this room, and this is when Neze actually goes and walks in. He basically says that he's a principal, but they should know it because unlike Class 1A, they actually went to the orientation. So before even Neze gets in there, both of them are kind of nervous and they don't know why they're there. And Monoma's like, well, maybe they finally realize Class 1A or Class 1B's talents and they want to reward us, because he's still in this phase of being kind of insecure and saying that he's better than Class 1A or Class 1B in general is better than Class 1A, but it hasn't really developed because remember, it's only been like the second day of school. So yeah, so what happens is that Kendo is like, well, I don't think that's really gonna be the case. I mean, it's only been a day. And he's like, well, I don't know, maybe we did something to really give interest in us. And eventually this is when Neze comes in, and Neze basically said that someone in Class 1A was basically kicked out of the hero course. And both of them are shocked, like, how could this happen, right? So what happens is he continues on and says, well, this is gonna be what's gonna happen. One of you, or we picked 2 people from Class 1A or Class 1B, I mean, and we voted on who should go, and we chose Monoma. It was a really close vote, but we ended up with Monoma. So they bring Kendo here to kind of say that she was close to winning, as well as saying that she's one of the higher ones in Class 1A or Class 1B, I mean, sorry I keep confusing it, but it's to give her more confidence and to basically have her become more of an achiever, I guess you could say, or motivate her to do better. So Monoma basically breathes a sigh of relief and basically tells Kendo that he's gonna miss her, and she says, well, it's not like you're gonna move away, you can still hang out with Class 1B. And Mona was like, yeah, I know, but we're not gonna have the same class anymore. So after that, we would skip like an hour, and this is when Aizawa would introduce Monoma to the class. So he would say his name is Monoma, and that his quirk is copy, or copycat, I believe it's called, something like that. So after that, this is where Deku actually gets an interest in Monoma. And he's like, he has the ability to copy, that could be really useful. So he tries to become friends with Monoma. So this is also around the time where Aizawa actually tells the students that they're going to have a field trip, kind of, and this is going to be to the USGA. So what's going to happen is that in a few days they're gonna go to the USJ to kind of learn about Rescue Hero and the type of work that they do. So yeah, so he tells them to get prepared for that, and then we could skip over to lunch, and this is where Deku tries to sit with Monoma, and this is where Monoma doesn't really know too many people in Class 1A yet, so he does recognize Deku. He says, "Oh, you're Midoriya," or I think Midoriya. He said, "Yeah." He basically tells Monoma that you should stick close to me in Class 1A. And Monoma's kind of confused, and he says, "Why would you do that?" And this is where Deku says, "Isn't your power or isn't your quirk copy, right?" And he says, "Yes, but why does that matter?" And Deku tells him that he is the strongest one in Class 1A, and he wants someone who can copy him to really raise the power level, I guess, or the overall power level of the classroom. And Monoma starts to understand it. But this confidence that Deku has is kind of not really freaks him out, but puts Monoma on edge. And the reason for that is because he knows that Todoroki's in the class, and Todoroki is the son of Endeavor. So if this guy says he's the strongest, and he's even stronger than the number 2 hero's kid, then he must be something, right? So he asks Deku, what's his quirk, and Deku basically says his quirk is called Blood Edge, and it basically gives him the ability to control his blood and turn into different weapons, as well as being able to see people, like see their life force, as well as enhance his abilities as the more he uses it, right? So he's just taking this all in so that later on he could copy it if he need to. So after that, this is where the alarm would go off, and everyone would start running towards the exit, but they kind of get caught up in the hallway because there's just too many people going there at once, as well as people just in a panic. So Ida would see what's happening and really take charge of the situation and tell everyone that that's what was happening was just the media basically coming in and triggering the alarms. But anyways, you might be wondering, who is the class representative? Well, it's going to be Ida. And the reason why I say that is because Deku would probably be the one that people would vote for, but I don't think he would want the responsibility, as well as he didn't want the job. He doesn't want to be noticed too much. He just wants to do his own thing until he becomes a hero. That's what he's trying to go for. So when this happens, everyone gets more respect for Ida because of how he stayed calm during the situation. Deku could sense it as well, but he wasn't really gonna be the one who tells people, that thing. He doesn't want to be the center of attention or have the spotlight on him, you could say. So after that, they continue, and we would get to the day of the USJ attack, or to the USJ kind of field trip, I guess. So on the bus, this is where the kids would start talking about the difference, or mostly it would be Suyu or Frobby basically talking about the strongest student in Class 1A, and with Monoma in the midst, I don't think Monoma would be in the top 3 just yet, because people don't really know the extent of his power, but Deku does. So they would put Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki in the top, right? And they would say Todoroki's stronger just because he displayed more flashy kind of attacks during the kind of heroes versus villains attack or test. So as they're on the bus, Monoma talks to Deku, and he asks him, why does he hang out with him? And he knows that he could be useful to the team because of his quirk and how he copies, but he really wants to know why Deku goes further than that. Why does he hang out with him and things like that? And Deku tells him that it's because he has the quirk copy or copycat. Unlike other quirks that are strong, it doesn't really give you that much attention. Although you have a strong quirk, you have to rely on other people, and it's not your own quirk. You're copying someone else's, which gives you less attention in general. And that's why Deku likes him. He doesn't want someone that could be in the limelight, or he wants someone that is strong as him but doesn't want someone who gets the spotlight a long time, because he wants to be someone who just lays low, and he wants a friend like that. So he sees Monoma in that, but he also knows that Monoma would have had a lot of, I guess, ridicule for his quirk because it's just a copy ability. So that's why Deku kind of sympathizes with him in a little bit, or in some sense. So after that, they actually get to the USJ, and this is where they basically open the doors and they meet the hero 13. She does the regular speech about how the importance of quirk use and things like that. This doesn't really affect Deku at all. In fact, he's kind of bored. He already has really high control of his quirk, so he doesn't really care. After this, they continue with the tour, but before they could actually start it, this is when a giant gateway actually opens up, and this is where a bunch of villains come out. Aizawa is confused, and so is the rest of the class. Aizawa then says that this is not part of the assignment or not part of the tour, and that everyone should basically back off while he goes down there to fight him off, and he tells 13 to keep the children safe. Deku doesn't listen and actually goes down there because he feels that with Aizawa being more of a support hero, he thinks that it'd be better for him to go down as well. So with Aizawa basically there fighting with Deku, he obviously would have told Deku to stay back and go with 13, but Deku doesn't listen and doesn't really say much, but says that that Aizawa needs his help. Aizawa doesn't really have time to argue with Deku, so he keeps a close eye on him just in case he gets hurt. Well, Deku doesn't really. With the ability to use his blood as well as the super strength that he has and super speed, he easily takes out people just like Aizawa. And it's not really until the Nomu gets involved where they have a hard time. This is where Aizawa would try to fight Shigaraki, but then this is where the Nomu would actually block it, which is where the fight between Aizawa and the Nomu would start. So what happens is that Deku basically uses his blood and turns into a giant scythe. Or now, before that, he actually uses his blood and uses it kind of like Aizawa's scarf, and where he uses it to wrap around Aizawa and pull him out of there. And he tells Aizawa to let him handle this. So what he does is that he uses his blood and turns it into a giant scythe, and he runs towards the Nomu. The Nomu doesn't really react too much because it has kind of low intelligence, so when Deku strikes it, it tries to block it with its arms, but he gets sliced. So the reason why he gets sliced in half, even though he has shock absorption, is because the force that's applied is actually focused into the blade. So that's why things like knives and things like that have an easier time going through things when you just apply a little bit of pressure onto them, because they're a lot thinner, and the way that they're designed makes it where they're easier to divide things compared to basically trying to chop something that has a blunt or a dull side to it. It's gonna be harder. That's the kind of idea, at least. So that's why it's able to actually go through. But obviously the Nomu has regeneration, and this kind of gets it back together. After that, Aizawa basically tells Deku to keep on doing it, and he'll use his ability to cancel quirks out, which he does. Deku actually uses his overdrive, which is from the game Blaze Blue, but his transformation, so to speak, and that's gonna be Blood Repulsor. So this is where Deku's hair actually turns white and his eyes turn red, I believe. And this is where he becomes a lot stronger. So he gets his scythe and it becomes even more powerful using his passive ability Enhancer, which also becomes more powerful. So he starts chopping the Nomu into a bunch of different squares just instantly, at least in the eyes of normal people that are there, especially Shigaraki, who's watching this in just awe and also I guess shock. So this is what happens, where he just turns the Nomu into just a bunch of cubes, and Aizawa is using his quirk so he can't regenerate. So after a bit he stops and it just doesn't regenerate because it's already dead. So after that, Shigaraki just starts complaining and he wants to fight Deku, and he tries to go for Deku, but Deku just leaps out of the way. He doesn't want to get near him because this is a guy who seems crazy to him, and it seems like he has nothing to lose, so Deku doesn't really want to get near that. So after that, this is where the heroes would actually come in and shoot Shigaraki, causing him to basically have to hide or leave the area. So the rest of this class isn't really doing much, or they were because they were teleported, but it's not like they had to struggle too much. Even with Monoma being there, I think he would have still help, because he would have replaced Deku where they would have been teleported, and even then it would have been a pretty easy thing to get away from, especially since he could have just copied Manetta's quirk, since I believe he can copy transformation quirks, so I'm not completely sure, but anyways, so yeah, Deku kind of defeats Nomu and Shigaraki leaves with Kurogiri, and the rest of the heroes come and basically help with any loose villains. So after that, this is where All Might basically talks with Deku alone, because Aizawa would have told All Might what would have happened, so he thinks he's a good candidate for One for All. So he talks to Deku and he offers the quirk to him, and Deku says no. He says he doesn't need someone else's power to become stronger. In fact, he never wanted that in the first place. He's going to become the #1 hero on his own, and he's not going to do anything about it. And he tells All Might, even if he gave that quirk to someone else, he's still going to be #1. It's not any pride or anything, it's just a fact. So All Might's he's confused on why Deku doesn't take it, and in fact he is kind of relieved, or not really relieved, but he likes Deku and how he likes his thought process kind of. So yeah, so this is gonna be the end of the video. If you liked the video, please give it a like. If you want to see more of these videos, please subscribe, and if you made it to the end of the video, please comment down CS so I know you support the channel. If you want to see these videos early, you go to my Patreon and only pledge $1. It only takes $1 to get the new videos early, or you can even pledge more if you want to support more. And each tier gets its own monthly raffle, and where I draw something for you. When this month's over, I'll show you the things I had to draw for Patreon, and maybe that will interest you. So with that being said, let's kind of give a shout out to the Patreons over on Patreon. So in our gold tier, we have Isaiah Prez, Alan James, Lyco, the Pirate King. So for our gold tier, or platinum tier, we have Pandaman 8. So yeah, if you want to join them and pledge, you can do that, or you could just support me on YouTube by subscribing and liking my videos. So anyways, with that being said, let's get into the video. So yeah.